Tommy, I want to touch on the Cavs-Knicks series. We are recording this on Wednesday, April 19th, and this feels like a series that potentially could go down to the wire. That could be a Game 7 series. Knicks, of course, lost on the road last night. Cavs just completely dominating that game. Big part of that, of course, was the turnovers. 32 points off turnovers for the Cavs, and 19 of those came in the second quarter when the game really broke open. Obviously, a large part of that as well was Darius Garland going for 26 in the first half. But it felt like after a very contested, very tightly contested Game 1, that JB Bickerstaff and company made some pretty significant adjustments to their game plan in Game 2, and it paid off.
Cavs defense has been great all season. How much of the turnovers do you think was them versus the Knicks being sloppy?
Some of it was the Knicks being sloppy, but there definitely was a lot of talk for 2 days about the physicality of Game 1, Knicks hitting first, and I felt like that got flipped in Game 2, where Cavs felt like the more aggressive team, the more physical team, and you can look at specifically how they guarded Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson was not double-teamed one time in Game 1. He was double-teamed 12 times in Game 2. He was blitzed in pick and roll 9 times. And the Knicks were 3 for 10 from the field with 2 turnovers on the 12 plays that he was double-teamed. So I think getting him uncomfortable was a big part of it. And then what they did with him. Look, if you're Jalen Brunson, you're going to carry a significant load and responsibility for this Knicks team. And I really believe the Cavs are looking to wear him down, both in how they're playing him when he's on the offensive end and involving him on the defensive end. They used Jalen Brunson's man 12 times for on-the-ball screens. That's the second most in any game this season. The Knicks allowed 1.78 points per direct play when Jalen Brunson was guarding the screener on a pick and roll. So that's sort of the game plan. How they will adjust, we can discuss.
This is the obvious luxury the Cavs have, having 2 all-star type guards and one backcourt. With the Cavs in particular in Game 2, this small ball lineup seemed to work pretty well with Karras. Do you feel like they found something there, or this was just a case of Karras just playing well?
Well, I believe they did find something. And a lot of times in those pick and rolls, Jalen was guarding Karras, and then he's having to recover to Karras, and he's playing, off of a pivot game or off of a closeout, and he's clearly got size on Jalen. That puts the Knicks at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I like the strategy. I think it worked. If I'm the Knicks, I'm just switching. I'm just switching and living with the consequences of that. Playing in the gaps, playing help defense. You have rim protection behind you with Hartenstein and with Mitchell Robinson. I think there was too many times where you're asking Jalen to hedge and then recover to a guy who can score. And that, to me, put the Knicks at a disadvantage. I want to talk offensively real quick, because when they blitz Jalen Brunson, first of all, it takes them out of their normal rhythm. Problem with the Knicks, they don't have a lot of shooting. And there was, I think, 7 for 29 from 3 in Game 2. So they don't have a lot of natural shooting. They were 19th overall in the NBA in three-point percentage for the season. So you're taking Jalen out of his comfort zone. And on the backside, you don't have the knockdown shooters that some other teams have that have primary playmakers like Jalen Brunson. So I like the strategy from the Cavs. The guy for me that has got to play better is RJ Barrett. And RJ's not a great shooter. He's also not a great finisher. And when he does drive, he's going against length with Mobley and Allen at the rim. And he's not a good pull-up shooter. And so I know early in the second half, Tibbs ran a lot of plays for him. They kept calling chin away, which is chin action, the old Princeton chin action, into a down pick for RJ to then play side pick and roll. So when they get into those drop things, like him shooting floaters and pull-up twos, if I'm the Cavs, I'm like, great. That's a great possession for us.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who I feel like has to play better for the Knicks if they want to win this series.
Does it feel like another guy that needs to play a little better as quickly?
Yeah, for sure. And that's where I think the adjustment is is, I don't know if it means inserting him to the starting lineup, but he's got to play more.
Yeah.
And given the size of the Cleveland guards, you can afford to play him more because Quickly has had a good defensive season. He's made a huge impact. It felt like for the first 2 games, he wasn't even really in the game. There was no rhythm. There was no point in the game where I felt like he was featured. And so that, to me, those are the 2 things. Barrett's got to play better, and then they've got to figure out a way to get Quickly going.
Julius Randle. This is an all-NBA type season. He hasn't been terrible, but I think that for them to win what's going to be, possibly a 7-game series, he's going to probably have to get to that level. Is there something, with how good these bigs are defensively, is there something that they should be looking at in game 3 to optimize him a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't know if it's been updated or if the stats have changed since I had their game in March, but I know at the time, Julius had hit more spot-up threes than anyone else. And to me, he's going to need a game where he hits 5 or 6 3-pointers. I don't know that challenging those 2 guys one-on-one or one-on-2 is the answer. So to me, it's like, hey, they're going to blitz Jalen. Let's figure out a way to get a swing pass to Julius, have him knock down some threes. It's interesting with this series because it still feels like this is a series that could go 7 games, even though I really believe the Cavs figured something out with their game plan. Before the series started, Cavs were favored. They were minus 210 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Knicks were plus 185. After game 1, for the series, Knicks were favored, minus 160, plus 135. After game 2, they're both a minus now. It's a pick'em series.
Yeah.
I mean, this is literally a pick'em series. And going into game 3, this is really interesting. Cavs are the underdogs. They're a plus 2 here as the underdogs. They're 4-13 this season as underdogs, and the Knicks are 27-15 as favorites. I know the Garden is going to be rocking this weekend on Friday and Sunday. I'm very curious to see how the Knicks adjust in game 3.
Knicks had 36 rebounds. Cavs had 43. We had talked about the Knicks, especially on the offensive glass. The Cavs had struggled with that all year, defending defensive glass, rebounding. Is that Mobley? Is that just Mobley and Allen just playing better?
Some of it is, yeah. I think it's an adjustment, especially for Mobley, who hadn't played in a playoff game. Some of that is an adjustment. Some of it is just a mentality that, again, going back to that old adage, the hit first mentality. One thing I want to add, too, on Brunson that I think the Knicks could have some success with is actually less pick and roll. And Jalen and Julius thrived this year. A lot of their offense is built on ISOs and drives. And Jalen in particular was pretty efficient as an ISO player this year. So when he's got a smaller guy on him like Garland or Donovan Mitchell, I think he should just attack.
Yeah.
Now, when he's on the wing, they're flooding. They're bringing Jared Allen over early, so that makes it a little tougher. So figuring out sets where he can attack either off a catch or maybe ISOing him up top, I think helps. I know they've had a success as well playing Julius and ISO up top where he can then penetrate and kick and make plays for other guys. So to me, if the Knicks are going to win this series, I really believe they're going to have at least a couple games where they make 14, 15, 16 threes and shoot them at a high percentage. The last thing I want to point on this series, and then we'll get to Jamal, the under, and I could have predicted this. The under has hit in both games this series. And going into game 3 right now, it's at 211 or 211 and a half. It feels like this will be a series where it's going to be low scoring. Yeah. Pace, the defenses, the physicality, the adjustments to game plans. So anyways, fascinating series. Very excited for game 3 on Friday.
It's NBA playoffs time. This week, everyone can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app using code JJ, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back up to $10. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 888-467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 and over in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.